Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I am a bereavement specialist. Hello, Susan. It's good to see you.
Hi, Lisa. I'm so happy to see you today. This is wonderful. And we're talking about a topic today that's near and dear to both of our hearts. I'm Susan Capurso, legacy specialist and end of life doula. And like many of you watching, I've experienced the profound emptiness that comes along with losing someone you love. Today, Lisa and I want to share with you how traveling can become an unexpected path to healing in your own grief journey. And not to escape the pain, but to carry it with you into new spaces where you can breathe again. This video isn't about forgetting, it's
Mm,
about finding new ways to remember and honor while giving yourself permission to still embrace life,
true.
right?
Yep. Yep, true. So, talking about travel, I understand you just came back from a trip, Susan.
Oh, I did. So I went to Sedona, Arizona. Um, I've been there twice before, but never had a chance, an opportunity to go to the Grand Canyon. And the last time I went was well over 20 years ago, and it was with my husband and two boys. And we got there, and they had a major, major blizzard in northern Arizona, and the Grand Canyon was closed.
Wow.
So they said if you have chains on your tires, maybe you'll even make it part of the way there, but otherwise forget it. My husband was so annoyed. He got on the phone, he changed our plane tickets to come home early. And I was so mad that he did that because I would have liked to walk around in the snow in Sedona.
Sure, sure.
But I tried to get back there and didn't have the opportunity to do so until last week. Oh my gosh. Or now it's 2 weeks, right, Lisa?
Yes.
So wonderful, so beautiful. If I can recommend anybody going there ever, please go. I have to tell you, it's a surreal, spiritual place. And I was able to let go. I've been going through a few things on my own with my family here. Uh, I was able to let go completely and not give life a second thought, except for being in the present moment. And that's the whole point of going to a different place, a different space, no matter where you are on your grief journey. It's being somewhere else. Of course, you're still going to feel your grief, but it's an opportunity to just not be in your living room on your couch,
Now,
right? And to
Susan,
see the world in a different way.
now who did you travel with? Because that's an issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So over the last probably about 8 years now, I've been traveling with my sister-in-law and my niece, Julia, who's in her early 20s. And we make good traveling partners together. You know, we laugh from the minute we leave and get on the plane till the minute we come home. It's not always that easy to find people in your life. If I didn't have them to do that with, I don't think I would have anybody else to really have that experience with. I know how hard it is to find people to travel with,
Yep,
right? But we have a few suggestions for you today.
we do. We do. And a few sharing as well. I travel alone to California for many years, ever since my daughter moved. And my husband died in 2009. I was already traveling to California in 2008 to see her and, try and help her out and, be there for her. So I do this almost every 3 months. I get myself on a plane. I take buses sometimes, whatever they need me to do to get to wherever they are at the time. And I've learned how to travel alone. I have sort of my own things that I do and things that I take and things that I read. I have like a whole ritual of what I do. I make a lot of friends on airplanes. I talk to a lot of people. I also made a lot of friends with my flight attendants. especially before COVID, where you could really, wander around a bit and stuff. I even were writing to them for a while. So um, for me, it's been like more of a social thing, but it's something that I never thought I would do. To be traveling alone across the country, it's very independent. And it's interesting because you learn a little bit more about yourself, your confidence, your abilities. It's interesting, and that's
And
just
by not doing it, it really comes down to, I think, a little bit of fear of the unknown,
sure.
right? Because it's not something that you've done before. But, you can find connections in these unexpected places, okay, whether they're lasting or not, just in the present moment. Um, Lisa and we're each going to tell you a little different piece of traveling that occurred right after we had lost our spouses. So it was different for each one of us, and it may be different for you. Okay, so let's start with your story, Lisa, and then I'll tell you mine.
Sure. So only 2 months after my husband had died, I was called to a business trip to Detroit. I had already done others, but this one was after he died. So for me, it really felt different. And so off to Detroit, I went for, I think it was almost 4 or 5 days. It was in March, and he had died at the end of January. So it was really 2 months. And so I got myself on the plane and got everything ready and all, and went off to this business trip. And I was occupied. So, when you're doing other things, you don't think about everything. However, I was in Detroit. And so for my husband, I, especially me, but him too, we like Motown. And what is Detroit? It's Motown, it's Hitsville. And so I began thinking about what I could do to get myself over to Hitsville from where I was. I was at the Ford Motor Company Fund. I was at Ford. And so I was very determined to try and figure out how to get over to Hitsville for myself. It was something I really wanted to do for me. And it took a lot, believe me. So it's March Madness. There are like no cabs. There's nothing to get anywhere. And everybody kept telling me there's no way you're going to be able to do this. I was on the phone, I don't know how long, trying to find somebody to take me there before I would go home on my flight. And I found a cab driver after telling him my whole story. And he said, all right, I'll take you. But I'm going to have to wait there for you because you'll never get a cab back and you'll never get to the airport. And he said, $200. And I said, sure. For me, I just wanted to get there. It was really important to me. And so I did, and he waited there for me. I was in there for 2 full hours. It was such an amazing experience. It was so exciting and so amazing and wonderful because this Motown is what I loved. And here I was doing it all by myself. Okay. I had gotten myself there. I experienced it. I looked over everything. I was at the Studio A, the whole thing. And I was so overwhelmed that afterwards I still feel it. Still feel it. I went outside and I sat down on like the curb that they had there, like the stoop, and I just cried. I just cried.
Yeah,
And I gave myself so much permission to just say, wow, you did this all by yourself. It's your first trip. You got yourself over there somehow. You did this. You made this happen. And it's still very emotional for me. And look at this.
I could tell.
Oh my goodness. And it's 16 years ago. But I was very proud of myself. And it was something that was
Yeah.
important to me. And when I got back in, the cab driver says to me, so how was that? I said, it was incredible. And I can't thank you enough for taking me and all. And he dropped me off at the airport. I gave him an extra tip. That's how grateful I was that he had taken me there and that I had been able to do that. So that was my first entree to actually traveling somewhere alone, doing something that was important to me and special to me. And I gave myself enormous amount of credit for making that happen. Very
Of
emotional.
course,
Very
of
emotional.
course. And all these years later, look how emotional, because we have to remember that, especially. Our experience today, Lisa and I, is experience that occurred because of a loss of our partner in, our husbands. And there's some fear in there. You married for many years, you did things together. You weren't afraid because you know what? He handled most of it anyway, right? He drove so I get what you're saying with paying that driver because I would pay extra money in order to feel safe too. You
Yes.
might not feel safe, because it's a new learned experience getting out there and traveling by yourself, especially if you don't have anybody along for the ride.
Right.
So yes, I would have paid the extra amount of money too. But to see that it makes you feel emotional now, I think that emotion is that you're proud.
I am. I
You're
am.
very proud that you got in a car and did that on your own with nobody giving you direction or
Yes.
telling you what to do or,
True. It's true.
the life changes, right? My
It does.
experience was a little bit different in that it was about 6 months after my husband passed. So we have a timeshare in Orlando, right near Disney. And that's something that we did as a family with our children. They had to be there. We had to take them there a dozen times or more, maybe 15 times we've gone there or something like that. Maybe it was 20, I don't even know. But those memories for us were of our family and the things we did together. And now our family was broken. So I wanted to take them back there. I was afraid to take them back there. So, how do I do this? I thought long and hard about how I would change that up a little bit so it wouldn't be the exact same thing that we did all the
Mm.
time. And in my thought, my brain, my thought process was I want to take them to do a few different things. They're a little older now than they were the last time we went. So, for example, instead of just visiting the three parks that we always went to, I made a reservation to take them on that I fly.
What's that?
Okay, which you go in and they give you they train you on what's about to happen, and you have these suits on that are like astronaut suits, and you're in a contained area. You've had the instruction already, but when they turn the gravity on or off,
Oh, you go up the tube.
you fly up. Well, it's not a tube, it's a big giant area like the size of your kitchen that goes up stories, many stories. And and the minute they turn it on, you now can fly to the top.
Huh.
They show you how you fly back down. And it was a whole experience that lasted many, many hours, but it was something that they never did before. So I thought that if we could go to our same original timeshare and experience the pool and the restaurants that we always ate at, but then to do a few excursions that were different, that would feel good for them, but yet not be depressing, you know. So I was pretty strategic in planning our trip, and I did a lot of different types of excursions, including we swam with the dolphins,
Nice.
right? Which we've never done before. Um, and we had the photos taken and everything. So the trip ended up being wonderful. A little more expensive
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
for doing all these different things, but it was important to me to let them experience some of dad being there, some of dad not being here, and making new memories with the three of us. And I
Nice.
accomplished it. And the following year, I did the same thing.
Mm.
We went again. We always used to go away in January during the break, after the holidays, and I did it again. Um, until I realized that second time that, okay, this was pretty expensive.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah.
Really expensive, as a matter of fact. So I think maybe in the 10 years, I don't know if we went back a third time and just did the parks, or actually I know that they've been there with girlfriends and all, doing their own thing. So that was in itself a new experience for them
Yeah.
not being with the family. So that was my experience of getting back into traveling.
So I want to tell you something
And so,
about
yeah, let me just add that how traveling was different for you. You had to go, right, for business. But in my case, it was honoring their dad's memory and visiting similar and different places. So
yeah,
you can do that as well. Go
yes,
ahead. Sorry.
yes. So two things. One thing is really about letting go of things that don't work anymore now, because of different circumstances. So I had a 29-foot RV, and for 10 years, our lives were incredible with that RV. I mean, we traveled everywhere, even though we were not retired yet. The kids loved it, and we took their friends. Between campgrounds and all the places we saw, and Disney was one of the places because they have an incredible Fort Wilderness is incredible there. So we've done all that, and I wrestled. So now he's gone, and now what do I do with this 29-foot RV? And the practicality was that he really, really enjoyed driving it. It's big, it's tall. And you know what? I'm not sure that I want to drive it. And I'm also not sure that I might meet somebody who also wants to drive it. So I decided to let it go. And that was a really big decision for me. All
Yes.
those memories, everything that we had done for all those years, um, incredible trips, incredible, including cross country. So I put it in an RV magazine. I did a few things. And I got messages along the way, like this was like the right thing to do.
Oh, of course.
This woman came to me, a gypsy, like a gypsy, and she was always changing out of her car, and she sung in concerts and folk singing and stuff, right? And she wanted something where she could live in and change and travel, so she liked it a lot. And so she came. Then she came with her boyfriend. Then she came with the mechanic. She came a number of times. And I would tell my son, I'm going to settle this thing, and I'm going to let it go. And I had it on Craigslist and some other things, $25,000. Okay. And I would say to him, I'm going to try and be flexible and blah, blah. It's not new. It's 10 years old. All right. So I continue with that philosophy. And I said to her, look, check it all out, figure out what you want to do. Blah, blah. All right. The day she called, I said to my son, if she offers 18,000, it's a sign. He looks at me with that look. And I said, look, honey, 18 is high in Hebrew and it means life. Um, and it's a sign. That's what I said to him. And, it's like, yeah, sure, mom, sure. Okay. So she gets on the phone and she says, look, the mechanic found this. And I said, look, I know it's not a new RV. Da, da, da. She said, I really can't pay you the 25,000. I said, I understand. She says, would you take 18 for it? Yeah. She didn't offer any other money. She said, would you take 18?
Wow.
So, yeah. So, emotional things, letting go, trying to move forward. And there are things that just happen. And I'm
Wow.
glad I did. I let it go, and it was the right thing to do. So
Well,
interesting.
you know that I believe that everything happens for a reason and it unfolds exactly the way it should. And that's a really good philosophy that I have found that has helped me through many, many different events and experiences and losses that I've had in my own life. So you have to know that it's okay to take baby steps.
That's right.
It's okay. And you have to recognize that when you're ready.
Yep,
Right? We always talk about there being no timeline for grief,
that's
and
true.
there isn't. So maybe you'll be ready in a couple months after, like you are. Maybe it takes 6, 7 months, maybe it will take 4 years
Yeah,
before you can decide to do something. So I would say about traveling, Lisa, I would say to start small.
me too.
Start small with day trips,
Yep,
right? That might
yep.
be hard for somebody to do. Take your day trips and then take baby steps, and then take a weekend getaway before you decide to take a much bigger journey that involves airplanes and going
Yes,
to far off lands, right?
yes, that's true.
Also, you have a choice. You can consider traveling solo. You can consider traveling with other companions or a tour.
Yes,
You know a
yeah,
lot about tours, Lisa, and that's something that I am getting ready to consider myself. Um, but there are a lot of things to take into consideration when it comes to travel, like budgeting, planning your accommodations. Maybe you feel much better doing it yourself and going on Expedia or going, directly to the airline. Other people might still feel old school and you want a travel agent to really book every leg of your trip for you. There's a lot of though websites now that will book every leg of that trip for you so you don't need to do anything. Like Perillo Tours is one that really focuses on Italy
yes,
and over there in the Mediterranean. And they will line everything up for you from getting on your plane to getting you picked up from the airport so you don't have to fill in all these puzzle pieces yourself, including transportation.
yes.
So there are many ways that you can consider traveling. You have to find what feels good to you and when you're ready to do it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I love that. Slow steps, things like that. There are a lot of Facebook groups I want to mention that are women travelers, solo travelers, travel tribe, all kinds. So, the decision of, okay, do I travel alone? And then I don't have to deal with anybody else, anybody else's craziness or anybody else's stuff that goes on. Or do I want to meet new people, maybe, or in a small group, or maybe single women, or, whatever it is, and you sort of touch that and figure out for yourself what might feel right, might feel comfortable. I haven't
Exactly.
been on any, oh, I have. Oh, let me mention something. Talk about day things, little things. So, I guess it was a couple months later, and I joined this group, Seven in Heaven, which is an activities group. I wasn't interested in meeting anybody or anything like that, but it had different activities that they do. And the activity that I chose was whitewater rafting. I had enjoyed it as a family. I thought it was fun, and it was at the Delaware Water Gap, so it was a day trip. And I went, and I ended up meeting my dear dear friend that I'm still very very close to now. And we had a ball. We had a great time together. We started doing things with this group, including a dude ranch over a weekend. So, again, starting small and doing something that was fun, and then, branching out from there. So, looking at what you enjoy, looking at sort of maybe something new that maybe you could try, depending upon, how you feel about it. But yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Now I want to talk about do I consider this just a traveling journey or can it be a healing journey? And I say, let's call it a healing journey. I don't care if you lost your loved one 10 years ago. Let it be a healing journey for you.
Yes.
So there are a couple kinds of healing journeys that you can go on. One might be memorial travel, okay, which means visiting places that you've been to with your loved one before, okay? And like I did in Disney, maybe tweaking it a little bit, seeing some of the old spots, seeing a few new spots. Okay, so that can be memorial type of travel. Then there's travel that are discovery journeys, right? And maybe these are places that you both wanted to visit one day
Yep.
and
Yep.
never had the
Yep.
opportunity,
So
right? And that you talked about
I've got that
and
one.
never did get a chance to
I have
go.
a really great example of that one. Really great example.
Okay.
Before my husband died, we talked about going to Alaska. It's what we really, really wanted to do. And before my partner's wife died, they also talked about Alaska. So Alaska was in both of our minds. And then when his sister mentioned there's a cruise, like a land and sea thing for Alaska, we both jumped on it, even, and it had been many years, for both of us. But we thought how wonderful that would be to still to do something that we would have done with our spouses and that we had planned to do but never got to do. We did this Alaska trip. It was one of the best trips. Wonderful, amazing trip. And I did a little spiritual thing in a fire in one of I brought a little bit of his ashes that I still had around, and I put it into a fire, and I guess it was Juneau or something, with the beautiful mountains in the background and all. It was so incredible. It was just beautiful. I felt like his presence there with me. Felt like he was traveling with me.
Yeah.
It was, and
That's and that definitely personifies the healing
yes,
journey, right? The
yes,
healing trip. That's kind of cool.
yeah, there was beautiful trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Then there's also retreat style trips,
yes,
okay, that are wellness focused. Those type of destinations, which I've really wanted to go over the last 10 years. And I can't say I haven't had the opportunity, but I've never looked into it and I've never booked it. That's the biggest step, finding the one that you want and then taking the plunge to book it,
yeah.
because then you'll follow through and do it. So I've always wanted to do something
Me
like that
too.
and
Me too.
just
Have
never had the chance.
yeah.
And then you could do and get massages and maybe
Yes.
do
Yes.
meditation or yoga,
Whole
take
self
hikes,
whole
eat good.
self-care. Whole self-care thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Also,
And there's places actually that are close. I mean, right here in New York, there's a place that a lot of people go to. They go to the Mohawk House, and it's a beautiful, spiritual, amazing place.
is that a castle?
It's by the Catskills.
No, a castle.
Oh, castle? I don't know if it's a castle.
Castle. A castle,
A
no?
castle. I don't know. I don't know. I've never. I think people talk about it all the time. They have incredible specials and retreats and stuff, and it's
It
beautiful.
is upstate New York.
It is, yeah, upstate-ish. Not all the way upstate, but yeah, upstate-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I
And
wanted
then
to do that too.
there are other experiences too. Maybe you love nature. You just love being in any type of nature. So you can find a place to go to where you can find peace and immerse yourself in natural nature settings, whether it be a lake or kayaking and hiking and doing those type of things. And then there's also volunteer travel.
Sure.
Okay. And that would be, that you're finding purpose and helping others. And that can be so fulfilling in so many ways, whether it's through your church organization or any other organization. Look for them. You can find anything you want online,
Yes, you
right?
can. Yes, you can. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
actually a volunteer match, I think, and that might even have some of those too. There's a volunteer match
right.
website. But that's really, yeah, that's really so therapeutic and so wonderful to feel like you're helping others and doing something, some important
It
work.
takes the focus off of yourself for a little
It
while,
does.
which is important.
It
And
does.
and talking about that, you have to remember the emotional preparation or the ramifications that your emotions can bring about, and make sure to constantly be taking care of yourself, and think of ways to manage any grief triggers that you may feel while you're away from home. Think of that in advance. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes. And it's okay. You don't have to be happy all the time. You don't have to be excited all the time. You're allowed to feel all those feelings. I wish he was here. I wish I had this. But it's not. And now I'm here at this point in my life.
Right.
So it's a journey. We always talk about journeys. It's a journey of how you evolve, how you move, and we all move in different ways. But travel is
And
just so exciting.
Lisa and I talk about a lot about traditions and rituals, right? So creating new rituals that will honor your loved one during your travels. is something to think about as well.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, you could think about some different things that you will do or places that you will go to honor them at a specific time and moment. Um, and also, when it comes to emotions, Lisa, allowing yourself to experience the joy without feeling guilty.
Yes. Yes.
That's a big
Which
one.
it is a big one for so many people. Interesting about travel, a lot of people, of course, start traveling with their families. Okay. Um, that person's sister, brother, whatever. And I've talked to a bunch of people and asked them, so how does it feel? And some have said, well, I feel like a fifth wheel. I feel like, I'm an extra person and all. And we have to get over
Yeah.
some of those things because number one, they invited us because they wanted us there. Because I remember taking my mom after my father died. I went on a cruise. And I remember her saying, well, I don't want to be a burden to you. I don't want to be. And I said, we took you because we wanted you to be here with us. But those feelings are something that have been expressed to me a number of times. Because it isn't the same and it's not going to be the same. And you're a single person now. You're not that couple that you were known for before. And so it's sort of a new way of identifying yourself, And this woman who went on a cruise said to me, I said to the kids immediately, you go and do the things you want to do. I'm fine resting here. I'm fine being over here by the pool or whatever. She didn't want to quote, hold them back. She wanted them to feel just do whatever you want. And I'm good. I'm good. Um, and so those things should be discussed. And another thing that somebody told me about was they had a pool of money. So they didn't feel that everybody was treating them all the time. So you'd put money into the pool each morning, and then you'd have the money for the whole group. So it wasn't like, oh gosh, now they're paying for me again for this thing or that thing or whatever. So that's what they
Oh,
did.
that's a good
Now,
idea.
isn't that cool? Yeah, that was a really good
Yeah.
idea they had. So,
And always remember to, when you're packing, okay, because these wide range of emotions can come and hit you when you least expect it. So when you're packing, pack some things that might bring you comfort in case you are having a bad day. And maybe that might be some photos or something from home that comforts you. Maybe
yes.
it's something that you read all the time at home to make you feel good, and you normally wouldn't think about bringing that with you on vacation.
Hmm.
Well, bring it because it might mean something to you at that
I
time.
I have something really interesting to tell you. So
Okay.
after my husband died, my cousin gave me this beautiful pillow and it had his face on it and it had dates
You
and
showed
stuff
me
and
that.
loving memory. It was so beautiful. And here's what I did. I took it everywhere with me. I really did. I put it in my car. I packed it with me. I it was like a symbolic thing that he was with me, traveling with me. And I know people would think that is nuts, but again, we all find what is right for us. Okay. So even though something sounds bizarre or crazy or whatever, they wouldn't do it. This was something that really was nice for me. Stayed right in my car with me when we travel around. I don't need
Just like
need
just like that woman actress who we think is nuts, who's in a movie and she's carrying around her husband's ashes everywhere she goes. Okay. So there's different levels of nuts, but if it works for you, it
That's
works for
right.
you.
That's right. That's right. You don't have to answer to anybody but yourself. And you're going
That's
through
right.
your life, your journey. And so do what feels right for you. Really.
I
Yeah.
want to talk about a few practical tips
Okay.
for traveling while you're grieving. Okay. One being think flexibility.
Yes.
Okay. Build some flexibility into your itinerary, whether you're by yourself or with others. Know that your mood may change at the drop of a dime.
Yeah.
And know that if that doesn't work for me being there, that there is transportation to get back to your room if you want to just go and rest it out.
Right.
Okay. But if you think about that ahead of time, it gives you permission. and it allows you to change your plan. And sometimes that's easier when you're by yourself than it is to do with other people because you feel guilty about that and you don't want to be that third wheel out doesn't want to, So think about that ahead of time and have a backup plan for yourself.
So in that same way, don't be hard on yourself. Our
Yeah.
expectations sometimes are just off the charts. I should be able to do this. I can do that. Yeah. No, give
And
yourself
we can't
lots of
sometimes.
permission. Lots of permission. Be
That's right.
kind to yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing is communication. So if you do have travel companions, you may want to talk with them beforehand or at the airport or at some point before you start your daily activities, and that they shouldn't feel bad for
Right.
you if you
Right.
need to check out,
Right.
at a certain time in the game. Um, Also setting boundaries for yourself, but for the people that you're with. In other words, don't be pushed into doing things
Hmm.
that you might
Hmm.
not want to do.
Yep.
So the whole group may decide that they want to get on this bus and go on an excursion that you didn't have planned,
Yep.
but maybe they want to do this today. Okay, well, know that you have the right not to, and set some boundaries there so you don't feel bad about implementing that. That goes back to the checking out a little bit, like that we just spoke about.
I
But
think that's
send,
why you need to make yourself a priority. And we
yeah,
often don't do that. Okay. Everybody else has been a priority. Everybody else we've been worrying about. We need to prioritize our what we need, what we can do, what our limits are, and not to feel, ashamed about that or anxious about that or apologetic about that. You don't
that's
need to do
right.
that. It's our right.
That's right.
All right.
And another good part of the backup plan, okay, you know how we do certain things in life and always have an emergency plan, emergency contact. They ask you that in schools when your kids are in schools, who's the emergency contact? Make yourself an emergency contact. Okay, somebody at home, somebody who knows your story, somebody who loves you without limits, and somebody that you will inform in advance that, hey, if I do need to check out and I need a little support, I may give you a call,
Nice. That's a
while
great
I'm away,
idea. That's a great
just to
idea.
maybe have my back and talk me off the ledge
Hmm.
type of thing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's great.
We
That's a great
we
idea.
we talk our friends and family off ledges all the time
We
and
do.
calm them down. I just got off the phone with a very dear person in my life, and she was losing it due to things that are happening at her job, and she's a manager, and it was a rough day, and she was breathing heavy, and she's getting a little older, and we could get ourselves sick over these
Sure.
things, and
Sure.
anxiety can really wreak havoc
Yeah.
on you. And
Yeah.
if that is about to happen when you're away, call your emergency contact
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
let them know in advance so they know they'll be talking you off a ledge and
Sure.
helping you to move on with the rest of
That's
your
a
day.
great idea. I never even
Yeah.
thought of that. That's a really good idea. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm.
And think of the stories that you're creating and the memories. Lisa, when you said that before, about just the memory of how brave you are and how you get the chills because you're so proud of yourself. These memories and stories last forever for the
That's
rest of your life.
that's right.
I have one. I was 20 years old and I planned a trip to go to London with a girlfriend. This was the first international. I just got my passport. I was so excited. I had saved for this trip. And guess what? It wasn't such a big deal to her to tell me that week we were leaving that she just couldn't go. She
Uh,
didn't save enough money and she was not going.
uh,
Okay, so that was a big decision and a brave decision for me to make to go to that airport and get on that plane that
mhm.
took me over to London.
Wow.
And I was there for over a little over a week by myself. So we really had to plan things out. We were going to wing it and go to some of the travel destinations and the touristy things and have fun. So I didn't have a plan in front of me. I was out of control. I had no control there, in going. But I have to tell you, the week was great. Had I wished I did a few more things than I did, yes, but I was afraid. I was there by myself. But my point being is that today, and I'm not going to tell you how many decades later because you don't need to know how old I am, but today I think of that story and I think the most important part of that whole story, Lisa, is what you just said. I think of my bravery and how proud I am of myself. And if we weren't having this travel conversation and I saw you for lunch today and you said, "What are you the most proud of in your life?"
Yeah.
I would probably say getting on that plane and going there by myself because guess what? I did it.
Susan,
I did it.
Susan, I had the same story. I can't believe it. When I was, wait, this has never happened before. When I was 20, in May of 1975, I went with this girlfriend. I thought we were perfect together. You don't know your travel companion till you're really traveling. She already
Oh
was
my
a lunatic on the airplane already. It was a 6-week trip. We had a Euro
God.
pass. We had an international student card. We had everything you need. The youth hostel card, and we had everything. All right, but we didn't really have a big itinerary. We knew somewhat of where we were going, right? And she showed how lunatic she was on the plane flight over. She was already crazy, saying crazy things. And we were in London, we were in Paris, and she's picking up guys and doing crazy things. I didn't want any part of it. And we had to get out of those situations. We were in Italy, and we ended up at 4 weeks together somehow. And we were in Switzerland. And she comes to me in the morning and says, "I've decided I'm leaving." And I said, "Where are you going?" She says, "I'm leaving you. I don't want to travel with you anymore." That's what she said to me in Switzerland. Okay. And I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, I have 2 more weeks until we had the booked reservation home. And what am I going to do now? And she just walked out that beautiful youth hostel. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? I'm 20 years old. I'm alone in Europe. Like, what's going to happen to me? And talk about brave, just like you. I started traveling. I went to Belgium by myself, went to Luxembourg by myself, and Amsterdam. I did all three. And I
Wow.
started traveling with people who a lot of students were traveling in the 70s, a lot of students. So, I started traveling with some students that I met from all different
On the way.
countries.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. It was
And it
amazing
ended up
that I could
being
even
one of
do that.
your proudest
It's
experiences ever.
true. It's true.
So you can create these. And thank you for
And
sharing that story. That was
yeah,
wonderful. And that
you
goes
too.
to show what we talked about earlier about flexibility,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So different things can happen,
Yeah.
especially when you're grieving. But guess what? I can promise you something. Two things, actually, Lisa. That if you decide to take on the endeavor, the venture, the journey of traveling by yourself, two things will happen. Okay. One being, in a way, whether it's smaller or bigger for some people, you will change your experience with grief. You will. It'll be a different experience with grief. It will not be the same experience with grief as being home and pulling the blanket over your head.
Sure.
It'll be a different experience with grief. So that's my one promise to you. The second promise that I can honestly say is that during your time, again, I'm a true believer on things happen exactly the way they should and for certain reasons. During your time away, you are going to experience unexpected moments of connection and of healing.
Yes.
You will experience this in some way, shape, or form. It could be when you walk out of the restaurant in Paris and you're standing on the little bridge and it starts to snow. That you know that movie.
Yes, I do.
Something's got to give. That's what happened
Yes.
at the end of the movie.
Yes.
But it could be in anything. It could be in finding a rock. The client that I'm working with right now, doing a legacy project for him, it's only a piece of his history, but he wants to, in this book, coffee table book, he wants to honor the life of his wife and celebrate her life lived because she passed away a year ago. So in this, he's telling a story and talking about how he went to uh, Robert Moses Beach with her all the time. That was one of the things that they did together all the time. And after she passed, he didn't want to give that up, but he was so afraid to go again. You know, what will this be
Mm,
like without her being there?
sure.
And the first time he went back to the beach, he's walking up a piece of the boardwalk by the lighthouse there, and he he glances at something out of the corner of his eye, and it was a white stone that somebody had painted. And in the middle of the decorations, the flowers or whatever it was the big word love.
Beautiful.
And he picked that stone up and he knew that he should take it home.
Yeah.
And he has it on his little end table where he sits in the living room to show him that it was important to go back. Now, going off the point off target with the point that I just wanted to make to you, this is incredible how he continued to go back. And every time he went back, he found another stone
Hmm.
and it had a different word on it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yes. I
Wow.
get the chills thinking about this. And in my smart brain of mine, I kind of think that maybe this was a project
Yeah.
for a mother and her kids, or just a woman who wants to give back. And maybe that's something she does all the time. And she's put them in different places, locations on the beach for somebody to find at exactly the right moment. And it did this for him. And all in all, he's found six different stones with six
Wow.
different words that
Wow.
he keeps in a little bowl right there on his table. And that has shown him that yes, he does need to move forward and can keep going back to honor her in the beach. And that was his thing. But I tell you this because you will find little moments of connection and healing, whether you're down the road at Robert Moses Beach or whether you get on a plane and go to Sedona in Arizona. There are little moments of connection that you will make through all of your travels.
Like I did with
So
Alaska. The
keep that
same
in
thing with
mind,
Alaska.
just like you did in Alaska.
Yeah, and I think we should also keep in mind that birthdays and anniversaries, those are great celebrations and a time where you can go someplace as a way of honoring and remembering and moving yourself as well. So you're still celebrating that person, but you're also creating some additional kinds of memories for yourself. And it might be a place that you were going to go together, or it might be a place that you talked about, or it might be a place that is your own idea that you want to do. But all those things still celebrate that I love, you know me. I love birthdays and anniversaries and ways of celebrating because those are the special days that we've always honored. And why would you forget them now? That's still
That's
the
right.
day that person was born. I don't care if they don't celebrate birthdays anymore. Okay. And the same thing with anniversaries, you know?
So I just want to end with a couple things. First of all, Lisa does a few bereavement um, workshops and different things on Long Island and even on Zoom. So please reach out to Lisa for any of that. I do a lot of legacy work. whether it's honoring your loved one or for yourself to have in place for your family and future generations. So reach out to me anytime for that. But I do want everybody to know that the journey through grief isn't linear. We talk about that
Right.
all the time, and neither is the path to healing. So remember that travel is not going to erase the pain of your
Right.
loss, but that we can find new landscapes, no matter where that may be in your scope of traveling, close or far, and that be open. Have an open mind and an open heart because you will guaranteed find moments of peace and connection and even joy, even joy. So your loved one would want you to find these special
Right.
moments
That's
in life,
right.
right? You always
Yep.
say that,
I
Lisa.
do. I do. And I believe it. If somebody really loved you, absolutely they want you to live.
And
That's our
remember,
job.
wherever you go, they go with you.
That's true.
Right? Not as a burden of grief, but as a presence of love that continues to shape who you are becoming now.
So well.
Yes, through the changes, through who you are becoming now. So, really, we want Lisa and I want you to know today to safe travels on your journey, no matter where that may be, both the physical ones and the emotional baggage that may come along with it. But do things to step outside of your box and to make yourself proud of yourself because those memories you'll
Right.
have with you forever and ever, like we
That's
talked about today.
so well said, Susan. So well said. Proud
It
of
was
us.
wonderful. I love talking about travel today,
Me
Lisa.
too. Me too. Me
And
too.
thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully, even next week's video will be better than this one. But we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Susan. Great. Take care.
Bye.